Welcome back. That was the report there where the Commissioner of Police for Lagos spoke about the team being set up to deliver a report on the death of Mohbad. Well, that is the latest, or one of the latest developments as regards the Mohbad case and what the police are doing in respect of that. But for now, I'm in the studio now. I've been joined by a legal practitioner. He is Etaba Agbo. He joins me now to do some justice, to break down what the law really says as regards this matter. Good afternoon, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
All right, so I think we should start at the beginning and then move forward. It's an unfortunate incident that has happened here, and there have been talks left, right, center. I'd like to get your thoughts, first of all, as to how you feel this should be handled or by all involved, particularly when we take into account that the deceased made a report to the police about being harassed thereabouts and assaulted, and now he's no longer with us. So what do you make of the situation?
Well, first let me send my condolences to the family as well as friends, fans and well-wishers of the deceased. His death is indeed a colossal loss to the music industry and the Nigerian society as a whole. I mean, you can see the reactions online. It tells you how much of impact he was to as many Nigerians as possible. So my condolences goes out to everyone who, of course, is hit by this tragic event. But in terms of my reaction, legally speaking, to all of the issues, let me say it's quite unfortunate. I mean, it's quite unfortunate that all of these things have happened over time while the boy was alive, and then nothing serious was done to manage the situation. I'm saying this because if you listen to most of the songs he puts out there, he feels now, he now feels like he was singing his problems into reality, because almost every lyric out there makes a whole lot of sense when you relate it to the bulk of what he went through. But then legally speaking, I think that this is time for the law to take its full course. I mean, in taking its full course, we've seen, of course, the recent actions by the government to manage the situation. The composition of the investigation team yesterday with a mantra that within 2 weeks they should come up with a report on the cause of death. But I think that there are other steps too that needs to be taken in order to ensure that justice is done, because quite unfortunately, as we speak, his body has been buried already. So it's quite unfortunate, because ordinarily, given that there is no cogent explanation that has been given as to the cause of his death, the burial shouldn't have been rushed the way it was rushed. I mean, we can't even pigeonhole the fact that it's on religious grounds that they had to rush the burial. He's not a Muslim. So we can't say, okay, because of religious factors, the burial was rushed. But as it is now, I think actions need to be taken, deliberate steps need to be put in place to ensure that, one, the cause of death is unraveled, and then secondly, who caused the death, or what caused the death. We should be able to have all of those questions answered. There are persons who were with this young man before his death, persons who spent time with him at the hospital when all of these things happened. The hospital in question that attended to him before his death. How come we've not been able to have all of these things clearly identified, get explanations as to what happened, how it happened? So if we get all of these explanations, we'll be able to now come to terms with the fact that, okay, this is how this man died, and if there's anybody that should be responsible for his death, the person should be held liable. But I mean, aside these circumstances surrounding his death, the immediate circumstances surrounding his death, that is all of those issues that came up within that short period of time before he died. Prior to this time, of course, we've seen videos of how he has always been out there making videos, trying to make his voice heard as to the fact that he was under threat, that his life is under threat. Saw videos of assault here and there, even one of the videos where he was making a music video, and then Samuel Larry, who of course is identified in the video, a close associate of Naira Marley, comes with some boys. They were holding canes, trying to assault him. Now, all of these things point to the fact that, I mean, there are just too many issues that need to be unraveled at this point in time. And so, beyond us having a police investigation, as we have seen, it is my view that we should be able to have a coroner court convened for the purpose of conducting an inquest into the cause of his death. Lagos State has a law that, of course, requires that when somebody dies under circumstances that are suspicious and inexplainable as it is now, and even when other circumstances like medical negligence and all, when those circumstances exist and you can't explain the cause of why the person died, there should be a coroner court convened for the purpose of conducting an inquest into the cause of his death.
A coroner court, can you break that down? What does it mean?
Now,
and when there's courts attached to it, does it mean it's made up of judges, or what is it? What is it really?
All right, now, the coroner court is a special court and is usually convened for the purpose of conducting an inquest, an inquiry into why somebody died. And so it's a court, but then you can say it's a special court. Special court because its proceedings are not usually the one where you go take adjournment here and then the usual court proceedings. The sole aim of having a coroner court is to conduct an inquest, and that's why if you look at the coroner system law of Lagos State, it makes provisions for us to have a coroner to divide Lagos into different coroner districts, where each of the districts they have a coroner. There is a chief coroner, and then in each of the districts there is a coroner. What that coroner does is that when there's death the way we have it now, the coroner court, upon being informed of the cause of death of the death of that person, not the cause of death, upon being informed of the death of a person whose death the circumstances are not, they can't explain or account for how that person died, they will sit. And of course, the law also makes provision for a chief medical examiner, who is an experienced medical professional, a forensic pathologist, who is experienced in that field, who will do the examination of the body in order to identify the cause of the death. The sole essence of why the coroner court exists is so that they can conduct an inquiry into how that person died, because ordinarily, of course, you can't.
In terms of the biology of it, it's not like an investigation into how what happened or who might have killed him. Is just what what physically, or will I say biologically, or
what medically accounts for his death. Now, aside biologically, the law also allows for situations where even when they are conducting the inquest, if they need to hear from certain persons too, who may of course have one or two things to say about the death, they will definitely give opportunity for all of those things. But in the end, if the coroner sits and they discover that this is the cause of the death of this person and this is the person who is responsible, they of course make an order for the arrest of that person, and then the charge is drafted and that person is charged and prosecuted for that for the offense, of course, which is murder. So all we are saying in essence is that we should be able to have all of these things put in place now, because the circumstances requires that we should have a coroner conduct an inquest. And you may want to ask, is it that the coroner will just stand up and act like that? That law also allows for information, notice of death to be given to the coroner court. And the question you will ask is, as it is now, has any notice of death been given? Of course, yes, because we've seen that
notice of death given by who to
given whom? By if you look at section 23 of that coroner system law of Lagos State, it allows for a person who has information as to the death of a person. Sometimes it may be a family member, but you have access to the information that this person is dead, and the circumstances of the person's death are not clear. You can write to the chief coroner or the chief judge, for example, to inform them of the death of that person, and for them to cause a coroner court to be convened in order to conduct an inquest into the cause of death of that person. We've had that situation now. I mean, human rights activists such as Femi Falana, senior advocate of his firm has written, my very good friend Festus Ogun, who practices in Lagos, a human rights activist, has also written to the Attorney General of Lagos State, the Chief Judge of Lagos State, and the Chief Coroner of Lagos State, informing them of the death of this person. So our hope is that they'll be able to activate the provisions of that law, conduct an inquest, so that in less than no time Nigerians will be able to know what is really the cause of this young man's death, because it's very tragic. And I mean, I don't want to go through what the mental stress is like, looking at all of those videos you see online surfacing now, giving you a picture of what this young man went through before he died. So the best anybody can do at this point is to ensure that justice is served. And of course, those who are responsible for his untimely death are brought to face the full wrath of the law. There are just too many issues with it. Issues are around assault too, which of course, from the videos you've seen that, I mean, close associates, somebody like Sami Lare, for example, who has in different videos, you've seen that he was expressly mentioned as the person who allegedly made life unbearable for the young man. We should be able to have all of these persons brought to explain their relationship with this person while he was alive. Because those videos speaks volume. And we also encourage others too, if anybody has access to information that will, of course, ensure that justice is served on mobile, they should come out and speak. They should be able to give their evidence to the police so that it will also help them in the course of investigation to make out a prima facie case against those who may be responsible for the death of this young man.
All right, that's fair enough. Again, it's a tragic event, and it always makes people wonder what could we have done to help and so on. Like you said, there are videos have been surfacing of different accounts and so on, different allegations. There is even, I believe there is one where he talks about the NDLEA and being injected or thereabouts, he alleges. So I'd like to get your thoughts on how should these things have been handled?
Yeah, so
because everyone is saying now, check up on your silent friend, check up on your. But then, if someone comes to me and they make this complaint, what can I do?
Yeah, so I would like to take you first on the issue of the NDLEA and the video we saw. Now, the allegation in the video is that he was given a substance that disturbed him. Beyond the video, I think there's also a screenshot somewhere where he was having a conversation with Larry. I don't know, I think that's his wife, where he was saying that his life has not been the same since the whole NDLEA issue. His stomach has been giving him issues here and there. Now, all of these things still boils down to the fact that the best we can do now is to have an opportunity where we examine his body to know what was the cause of his death. Because all of these things, you can't, as much as, of course, those allegations are there, we won't forget the presumption of innocence. We won't forget that. I mean, the Constitution makes provisions for the presumption of innocence that inures in favor of anybody who has been suspected of committing an offense. But beyond the presumption, now we are now saying let's take deliberate measures to ensure that all of the loopholes are settled, the questions are answered, and all of the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, so that we can be able to say for sure what truly happened. All right,
let me just cut in here. Just the other day, we were speaking with the PRO for Lagos State, and he spoke about how certain cases require the, for lack of a better word, victims or so, to have to come and make a report. That the police cannot just wade into matters like that. I'd like to get your thoughts on that comment. And then separately, when you speak about this coroner court and examining his body, I wonder, is there no law that, I don't know, prohibits the government from being able to just take someone's body and start to examine it? Because again, the question will come now. The family will say, did we tell you he was murdered? Did we ask you for anything?
Yeah.
So why are you digging up our child's body to do whatever you want to do? So I don't know, is there nothing that is restricting or holding the government back from doing these things?
All right. Well, the thing is that when you look at the situation we find ourselves now, looking at the projection for a coroner court to be convened. Now, under that coroner system law of Lagos State, I think particularly section 17 of that law, it gives the coroner court the power to order for the deceased body to be exhumed. And that law makes provision to the effect that regardless of what the custom in that place may provide, that the coroner will have power to order for the body to be exhumed, and exhuming that body is solely for the purpose of conducting the inquest. So in this case, we have a situation where it has been allegedly reported, I don't know how true, but I think we saw a video yesterday, Kesolo, who was around the police station yesterday, made a video that they have spoken, he had contact with the boy's father while they were inside the police station, that he has informed them that they've agreed for the body to be exhumed today, that the body should be exhumed today. So it therefore tells you that if that is true, we will not necessarily have issues as to the family saying they want it or they don't want it. There's already a report, although yet to be confirmed, but there's a report that the family said, yes, they are down to get the body exhumed so that it can be examined for the purpose of knowing what actually caused his death. So the point is that legally speaking, and under that coroner law of Lagos State, the coroner court has powers to exhume the body. Of course, they don't exhume the body for the fun of exhuming it. They exhume it solely because there are circumstances that tends to show that this person's death was not natural. The circumstances that he died are honest, they can be explained, and so it is important that they exhume the body, do a medical examination of the body in order to know what truly caused the death of that person. And like I said, that law takes cognizance of the fact that regardless of what your custom may provide, that of course they can exercise that power to exhume the body, provided the circumstances are one that you will need to exhume it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, needing to exhume the body as part of getting to the root of the issue.
Yeah.
But people will have a lot of questions as to the burial happened so quickly, why, and so on and so forth. But let's talk about things that the police have access to and how much they can do with it. We've seen the report, the report there where Mohbad, the police report where he alleges assault and so on.
Yeah.
So we've also seen videos of that, seemingly happening. I'm wondering to what extent can the police make use of such evidence? Because if you recall, the police PRO said something about it's not just about social media. He made a tweet like that. It's not just about social media. It's not just about all of these that is on the ground. So I'm wondering, when we see these things on social media, is it enough for the police to just take it, as long as it's verified that it's not some sort of fabrication or some sort of AI, can they work with it, or do they still need something else?
Well, in circumstances such as what we find ourselves, it's always advisable that when you have that concrete evidence, take steps, engage the police directly, not just through social media, so that way the police will also have that excuse of, oh, you did not come to make a formal complaint, that's why we did not act. So, and that is also why, even as it stands now, people are being encouraged that if you have anything that will help the proper investigation of this case, you should come out and submit it to the Nigerian police. So there are circumstances where the police sometimes they act without even necessarily having to wait for somebody to come and make a report. The police sometimes may under circumstances that there is reasonable suspicion of commission of crime, they act. So in circumstances such as where we find ourselves, that people are even going up to the extent of protesting here and there. I do not think that it would be wise for them to just sit down and say, oh, until there's a complaint, we won't do anything. Because while you're waiting for that complaint, you'll be faced with a situation where there's so much protest, some may even lead to violence. And then at that point, we'll now be talking about a different story entirely. I think prime prevention should go beyond just waiting for a complaint to see that when there's a possibility that, oh, there's going to be serious violence, there's that threat of violence, you should take measures, be proactive enough to see how you can engage with those who are even making the complaints, whether through social media anyway, to know how true some of those allegations are. And when you do that, you do also give them the opportunity to even come and make a formal complaint. But the circumstance we find ourselves now, the point is that people shouldn't just wait. I mean, it's not time for everybody to speak up. So if there are concrete evidence that anybody has that will help the proper investigation of this case, they should be able to come out and submit same to the police. Let it not be the police let it not be that the police that will take the blame of not acting, while all the evidence they need to be able to bring the culprits to face the full wrath of the law has been given to them. So do not just wait, act, so that we will also be able to look at the police and know whether or not they are not ready to do their job. But like we said, the situation now is not one that anybody wants to sit down and begin to throw blames here and there. Somebody has died, and his death is painful and very tragic. And so it is only necessary, and it's only good that at this point in time, the agencies of government that are responsible for restoring peace and order take steps to ensure that they handle the situation, conduct a proper investigation to ensure that all the culprits are brought to book, and not necessarily having to be given the excuse of, oh, we are waiting for a complaint here and there. Perhaps when Nigerians have hit the streets everywhere, at that point in time, they will now want to tell a different story, different from the fact that, oh, they had the opportunity to manage the situation, but they were waiting for complaint to be lodged here and there, and even the issues of assault here and there. I think even one of the videos I watched where, I think, is this Samila also saying that the videos, he has nothing to do with the death of Mohbad, and that the videos that are surfacing are videos from they are old videos. Assault is a criminal offense. Our limitation laws do not even relate or apply to assault, like physical assault, not sexual assault, because there are some parts of sexual assault here and there that you have the limitation laws affecting them. But physical assault does not have a limitation period. Whether it was last year, it was this year, you should be able to go to the police and explain your side of the story. I think all of these things will also help, so some of the allegations will be laid to rest too. If, for example, people are saying you did this, you did that, you should be able to take steps to clear the air by saying your side of the story. Tell the people, okay, this is what happened, this is what happened. The videos you are seeing, this is what happened. Because if you look at those videos critically, it's difficult, if not impossible, for you not to say that, I mean, there's a clear case of assault against a young man while he was alive before his death.
From multiple occasions.
Yes.
Oh, all right. You know, but I wonder, to what extent can the government or the police do anything about the suspects involved? I know you're not a medical doctor or in the medical business. I don't really know how long, you know, a body can be buried and still be viable for autopsy and you get actual results. But let us assume all of this is done, and at the end of the day, it is determined that it was not natural causes. I mean, it can hardly even be natural causes. I don't know if there's any scenario of this where the end result is that he died of natural causes, but we can't rule it out. But that being said, when it is officially confirmed or determined, you know, what can the police start to do as regards the suspects involved? What I mean now is, I'm not even sure, you know, the fingers being pointed now. I'm not pointing them now. Just allegations we are saying. Someone like Sam Larry. No one is really aware of his current location, so to speak. People say he's not in Nigeria. I don't even know if Naira Marley is also in Nigeria. So the question is, what can the government or the police do? Assuming these persons become prime suspects, do you tell them to come back? What do you do really?
During the course of investigation, we will even get to the point of saying they now become prime suspects at the end of the day. As it is now, the police should be able to invite almost everybody they know will have one or two explanations to give as regards the whole issue.
And if they cannot show up?
And if they cannot show up, they order for their arrest, even if you're hiding anywhere. Their laws are, of course, you can always be extradited when the need arises. All of those things can be done. To say that if anybody is hiding, you can't get the person will mean that some persons are above the law, and that there are circumstances where you commit a particular act which will likely be an offense, and then there's a place where you will run to and you'll be saved. That is not what it is. No matter where you go to, the laws, of course, allows for you'll be summoned to appear. You'll be required to appear and come and defend yourself for allegations that have been leveled against you. But I think for the purpose of the investigation, if there's an allegation, you are saying you're not the one who did this, you didn't do this, and you're trying to establish your innocence, it is only natural that while the investigation is ongoing, the police should be able to invite. I've emphasized the fact that they should invite all those who are necessary, who will be able to give explanations as to certain things that will help their investigation. And if the police says, Naira Marley, come and explain. If they say Samuel Larry, come and explain. Mohbad's wife, come and explain. The father, mother, or any other person, Bella, or any other person who had a close relationship with the young man, come and tell us what we need to know. Nobody is bigger than the Lord to say, I will not come. I do not think I've done it, I won't come. In fact, the mere fact that you are saying you won't go, you already resist the presumption that you are not going, because if you go, what you may say will jeopardize your interest. But I think for the sake of justice that is required in this case, anybody who says he or she truly has the interest of the disease at heart should be able to present themselves to say the level of involvement they had with him while he was alive, and to tell their side of the story so that every issue is laid to rest. At the end, we will be able to know the true innocence of anybody, and even in the end, we will be able to also know the extent of liability anybody can bear, for as long as the life and times of Mohbad are concerned.
That's a great one, really, because with the way the internet is these days, one wonders why up to this moment there is no clear narration of the events. I mean, there were people with him. We're seeing people speak up for him, his friends or his colleagues, but then there must have been friends and colleagues close by when it happened, and we're not seeing the comments from those people, and it's giving this air of a smoke screen. But that's aside, I guess. Let's talk about leading up to his death or his life. Like you said about his songs and what we know about him, he seems to be someone who had a sad life, so to speak. And it wasn't because of anything that was really his fault, but because of how he was treated. So let's talk about what artists should be doing, or how they should be protecting themselves with the law, so to speak. We have people signing contracts where Mohbad himself, I believe, alleged that he wasn't privy to his
terms of his contract.
Yes, and even his intellectual property. He didn't know which songs, the number of streams, and so on. He wasn't the back end, so to speak. He wasn't aware the income. Recently, his songs have been getting more play, and somebody had to point out that money is not even going to Mohbad or his family
members.
Yeah, it is believed that they are in court. I believe one of the statements said
they made a statement that,
so they are still trying to get all of that. So what should artists be looking to or trying to do to avoid these issues where they are taken on a ride or being maltreated or used for their own intellectual properties?
Yeah, so like I always advise people, sometimes people will say, well, because you're a lawyer, that's why you're sounding this way. When you find yourself in a situation where you have to engage in a transaction that have legal consequences, not to talk of signing documents that embodies rights and liabilities, you should be able to procure the services of a lawyer. It's always very important, because most times using artists as a case study, you realize that because of the urge that they want to get to stardom, they want to blow, as you may put it in the Nigerian parlance, they pay little or no attention to the consequences or the liabilities and rights that comes with the document that binds them and the person who has decided to sign them into a record label, for example. So the whole euphoria of, oh, I am now under the umbrella of this person, overshadows them to the point that they don't necessarily pay attention to the details of what they are contracting to do. So first, is always advisable, and the projection is that as an artist or any other person who wants to go into a transaction that of course has legal consequences, you should always procure the service of a lawyer. Because if you have a lawyer should be able to explain in situations where you have contracts that there are clauses here and there. The lawyer should be able to explain to you the nature of those clauses, the extent of liability that comes with everything that is embedded in that contract. So that way you know what you are binding yourself with. And even if you now have contracts that exist, let's take for example instances where the person now goes into a contract without necessarily procuring the services of a lawyer, and then there are liabilities or there's a breach from one of the parties. The lawsuit does not allow you to say, because you're a record label, you should take law into your hands and you begin to bully the person who is on the breaching end here and there. It doesn't work that way. The reason why we have laws in place is so that human beings do not act the way they want. If there are no laws, of course, the whole world will become a land where everybody who is a beast, according to your strength, you begin to go after the other person according to your strength. But we have laws so that it provides the dispute resolution mechanism in terms of dispute, and when you feel you have a grievance. So people should be encouraged. That's what I'm saying. The artists or persons who go into transactions that have legal consequences, they should be able to retain the services of a legal practitioner, so that the person takes time to explain to them the consequences of what they are going into and the extent to which they bear liability. And I'm also saying that in instances where this person even still fails to procure the service of a lawyer, and then there's a breach, you who is on the part where you have suffered that breach, the law does not give you the latitude to go ahead and begin to take laws into your hands. No. There are ways in which you enforce a breach. You can go to court to say, okay, this person has breached the contract that we have entered into, and not taking the laws into your hand. But legal representation is always very important, because it affords you the opportunity to get a clear understanding of what you are going into before you even go into it, so that it explains to you the extent of your rights, the liabilities that comes with it, so that it will even guide you in the course of implementing that contract. Because beyond signing it, there are usually things that you need to do to conform with the terms of the contract. So the legal representation will also afford you the opportunity to be guided accordingly. There are certain things you want to do, the person will tell you, your lawyer will tell you, okay, do this, don't do this. This is what you can do, this is what you cannot do. That way it keeps you in check. But when some of these things do not exist, it becomes a problem, because you now find situations where this one, according to his or her might, will decide to use their resources, their time, energy, and resources according to how much they have it, to begin to deal with the other person without necessarily making recourse to the due process of law to enforce that grievance that they have.
Yeah, you made mention of something, according to their might, and that is something that really worries me. In a civilized society, no person should be able to say, I'm bigger and stronger than you, so I can impose my will on you. And this is something that is core to what we know as cultism. In the last few days, there's been more, issues being raised as regards cultism, particularly in the industry. A lot of people say it's a lifeblood of it. And that's how we see these oppressions and harassment. It's not just regular people deciding to harass others. We see the lingo, we see everything. And it's at some point, we even have some of these, should I call them bodies, having like hangouts, sit-outs, posting online. So I'd like to use this as some sort of refresher. Is cultism a crime? Because it seems as though to an extent people have begun to adapt it into pop culture and different things, and it's almost like, well, anybody can wake up and become a cultist. There's no big deal to it. It's just part of entertainment. So are there laws against cultism in Nigeria, or is this something that is free for all?
Well, the thing is that when you engage these issues, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's sad that we have a situation where, as it stands, the whole situation is almost becoming an issue of cultism, which is something that is very, very condemnable. So most of the time when you talk about the legal framework governing cultism here and there, some persons will always tell you that it is freedom of association, that you have a freedom to associate, freedom to belong to any association you deem fit that meets your interests here and there. But the reality is that as you have that freedom of association, that freedom of association comes with a duty to ensure that while you associate, you do not in any way conduct yourself in a manner that is inimical to the peace and stability of the society. So it's not just about coming together. It's about what you do when you come together. So you've come to form an association. The only thing you want to do with that association is to be going about harassing people, stealing, or carrying out all other forms of social vices. The law does not allow that. Because when you decide to go and slap somebody in the name of being a hard man or this and that, the law will not afford you the defense that because you belong to this association is a defense against assault or any other offense that you commit in the process of carrying out your activities. And that's why people have to always be careful. I think most of these associations should naturally be to promote the cause of a better society. If it's not the better society, it's not meant to be. Because at all point in time, you agree with me that it has never done us any good. Rather, you just see a situation where somebody ends up dying under circumstances that he or she did not in any way, I mean, they won't be proud of. But those are not the issues per se. If we are necessarily focusing on, I mean, the issue on ground, when we are looking at trying to interrogate the whole issue around the death and all, but just as a general word, it would be bad for us to in any way make the issues at hand to become an issue of who belongs to what, who doesn't belong to what. No, this is a call for justice.
About an issue of oppression, if the victim is has been allegedly murdered or killed because people are oppressing him due to their affiliations and so on, that's why that it raises that question. But going forward, what do you think is really the way forward? When it has happened, you've given an advice as to what to do while getting in, and I do hope all the young artists out there trying to get into the game understand the advice you've given. But for those who found themselves there already, we have a lot of instances in the Nigerian music industry where at some point things were not working out for some people, especially when they narrate their ordeals where they say like, well, I was a star, I was performing at so and so, but I was earning 20,000 naira, and all these sort of stories. So people who are already inside, when you've signed it, is it over for you? Once you've signed it, it's done. You should just, take your time in hell and leave it out like it's a sentence, or are there ways that this can be addressed?
Well, once you have gone into a contract, of course, and the terms are now becoming very cumbersome, I believe that most contracts usually have a term, a period in which, of course, it is expected to last. Of course, during the pendency of that contract, the contract is binding between the both parties. So you can't
challenge contracts?
No, I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm coming. Provided that, that's why I want to give the proviso that comes with it. Provided that the contract was entered into voluntarily without any form of misrepresentation, undue influence, duress, or any mistake of any kind, which is legal, a mistake that is legally recognized. So, for as long as it is voluntary, you voluntarily entered into it, the contract is binding, and of course, provided also that the contract is not illegal. It's not for the purpose of carrying out an illegal act. So,
what makes a contract legal?
When
if you and I draft a paper right now and I say, for the duration of this program,
we are going to be killing people in the course of our contract, that's an illegal contract.
No. If I say you are not allowed to use a certain word on this show, and just a paper between you and I sign and you sign.
A word like what?
Let's say visa. You are not allowed to say the word visa. Is that something that can work?
All right. Now, being illegal is that there's a law that prohibits that particular thing.
Okay.
So, because there's a law that prohibits the doing of that particular thing, you should not use that illegal thing that the law prohibits as a basis for a particular contract. So, if you say do not use visa, it does the law prohibit? Is using the word visa or not using it, is it an offense?
All right, but for the sake of argument, let's assume what I'm telling you to do or contracting you to do is allowed by the law. The issue I want to point out here is issues where there's no lawyer present. Do those things matter? Or the point I'm making now is if two random persons go to the room somewhere and sign something, is it binding?
All right, now that's why I emphasize the fact that when you say it's a contract, something that is binding, it means that all legal requirements for us to have a valid contract exist. I wouldn't even want to dabble into most of them, but like I said, provided it is voluntary, it was made without misrepresentation, without duress or undue influence, and the subject matter is not illegal.
But do you need witnesses?
Of course, there are times when you may need. There are times when you need witnesses. There are times when both parties can just simply go into a simple contract that you do not necessarily need a witness. You don't necessarily need a witness. It will also be binding. So, but back to the question that led us to this conversation. The question you ask is, what happens when you are already there, but then you were not properly advised? So that is why, even in the Bible, we have what is known as repentance. So the point where you come to the realization that I think I have erred, and I need to take steps to, bring myself to the right direction. At the point where you have heard, a contract presupposes an agreement between two parties. And so if a contract is an agreement, it means that at that point in time, what will keep that contract flowing is that agreement between the both parties still exists. So once, of course, you realize there are some terms that have become very cumbersome for you to keep up with. By agreement, the both of you can come together and agree that, okay, see, can we modify this thing to be like this? I feel this is this. But at that point in time, there must be that agreement. If there's no agreement, you can't even do any other thing. But you both must come to the negotiation table and have a conversation as to what is working, what is feasible, and what will continue to drive your contract to move forward.
All right, that's fair enough. At least artists know that even when they find themselves there, perhaps there's a little sliver of hope for them, going forward. So, but just to begin to round up the conversation here, what would be your advice to all involved as to getting the best resolution? As we speak right now, news just came in that a delegation, I believe from the Lagos State government, has just visited the mother of the deceased. So, how do you think this can pan out for all stakeholders involved? What do you think everyone should be focused on right now?
Well, I think for all the stakeholders will not just be the police and the immediate family. It involves every other person who has one or two evidence that will help the police to conduct proper investigation for as long as the case is concerned. So what is advisable now is that everybody must present themselves for investigation purpose. Because I think the best they can do at this point is to ensure that Mohbad's spirit is resting peacefully. And they should offer him justice. All he requires now is justice. And so whatever each and every one of us can do, legally speaking, to ensure that the case is properly investigated and that the cause of his death, one, is unraveled. And if at any point in time there's anybody who is fingered in the cause of his death, that person is made to face the full wrath of the law. That is done. That would be the most befitting thing that he can get as of this moment. So all stakeholders should necessarily make themselves disposed to ensuring that investigation is properly conducted, and at the end of the day, if anybody is found culpable of any of the issues that led to his death, that person should be brought to face the full wrath of the law. I believe all other issues as to sharing of properties, royalties, those issues will naturally fall in place, because once justice is served, who knows, in the course of getting justice, you may be able to know the extent to which anybody can be involved in his royalties or property sharing, as the case may be. So, but I mean, property sharing can always be done, but justice currently is the most important thing, because while his body is laying where, of course, he has been buried, it will be decaying. And so if we may get to a point where they will need to examine his body and it has decayed, that may also cause some sort of problem. I'm not the medical personnel, but I mean, the fact that it is decaying may create some difficulties with the examination and all.
But without the coroner court, can we still get that?
Well, I think they say first, we should not be doing what option do we have, what option do we not have. The law gives you the right to convene a coroner court given the circumstances that we find ourselves. Why should we now be dabbling into should we or should we not? If it's going to get us justice, why not we do it? The law allows us to do it. Let's get it done. So I'm trying not to dabble into the argument of should we or should we not. Justice is important. And coroner will get us, of course, justice. It will also help in getting justice. So let's also utilize it.
That's fair enough. Thank you so much, Mr. Taba. It's been fun having you. Well, it's not a fun conversation, but it's an enlightening one on a very serious issue. Thanks so much for shedding more light on it.
Thank you.
But I will still have to keep you just a little bit while we go on a break. When we return, we'll take a look at trending focus at something that has been trending online. I'd just like to get the thoughts of our guests. But that's it for this segment. And the discussion on law enforcement, on contracts in the entertainment industry, on how artists can protect themselves, and how justice can possibly be seen to be done and be done in the case of the death of Mohbad. Hopefully, this is all taken into account and considerations by all relevant stakeholders. That's all for this segment. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you.
Your appointment, Professor John A. Lee, as the Chief Medical Director of the Obafemi Awolowo University Teaching Hospital in Lagos.
Welcome back. This is still the Polity reaching you live from Abuja. I will be delving now into the segment called Trending Focus, taking a look at some of the things that have trended between the last couple of hours. Let's take a look now at a video of the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shuaibu, being allegedly locked out of his office at Osadebe Avenue, the government house, yesterday. We'll take a look at the video and some reactions online.
Target and the inner one, they padlock and chain it. The governor said they should lock it, that they are using the office for something else. I have not moved to anywhere. Nobody has given me letter to move to anywhere. Nobody has given me letter. So if governor say I have moved, I have not moved. I have not moved. The governor did not give me letter. Nobody has given me letter to move. So how will I move out of my office? I'm here now, the gate is locked and padlocked. So maybe, I don't know. So I call the governor, is not picking. So you call the governor that I didn't move because I didn't get any letter to move. Only the civil servant got letter to move. I'm told that the civil servant been given letter from the office of HOS to move out of this place. For me, I didn't get any letter to move. So I'm here. They should come and open the gate, please. Call the governor that I'm at the gate. They should please come and open the gate. Let me come back.
Welcome back. That was the video of the deputy governor there. Before you come in, Mr. Agbo, let's take a look at what some Nigerians are saying online about the incident. We have Jeff Phillips, one soldier, as he calls himself. He says if Sanwo-Olu does 5% of what Obaseki is doing to his deputy, the outrage on Twitter and TV studios will be sustained for weeks until he stops. The animal scientist pretending to be journalist will dedicate all his life to it. Well, I hope he is not referring to an actual human being there. We have Sadiq Tade, also known as Premier. He says, this man likes drama. You are forcing friendship with Obaseki on the internet while in court to challenge same man offline. You should move on and enjoy the rest of your administration. As from the ever sarcastic Sadiq Tade. Now we have F.A. Galileo. He says Obaseki and Shuaibu should get into a room and settle this their petty squabble. It's unhealthy for the state. Well, there you have what some Nigerians are saying on the matter. I'd like to get your thoughts on this, particularly the video there where he says he did not get a letter. The government, he says the governor said something about the office is being used for something else. Do you see anything wrong with it, or is the governor within his rights?
Well, generally speaking, between Comrade Shaibu and His Excellency Godwin Obaseki, I think it's unfortunate that the political issues that exist between the two of them, they align it to not get into the performance of their official duty. How do I mean? To the extent that the governor locks out the deputy governor outside. I mean, we are not disregarding those issues that exist between the both of them. And I'm not here to say who is right, who is wrong between the two of them. But I'm now saying, if it has gotten to the point where the deputy governor of a state cannot have access to his office, an office that comes by virtue of him being the deputy governor, that office that is the place where he will carry out responsibilities that are assigned to him as deputy governor, it tells a whole lot about what our politicians do with power. Because really, if the both of them have issues, they should settle their issues without necessarily dragging the offices into it. It doesn't make sense that you wake up and see a deputy governor stranded outside without information that the office is being used for anything. I'm not wedding brief for anybody. Like I said, I'm not here to say whether Shaibu is right in having personal issues or political issues with Obaseki, whether Obaseki is right to have issues with Shaibu. But what I'm saying is that to the extent it has gotten to the point where it is affecting how they carry out their responsibilities as governor and deputy governor. They have to warn themselves about
but the governor, about some of those but things. The governor, you know, set out a new office for him.
All right.
I don't know what the pretext, like you said, that's up to them. But I'm talking about the actions itself. Where he says we actually saw pictures of the new place where the deputy governor is meant to go. But generally, the idea is that he should not be close to where the governor himself is.
The place we are talking about, how is the place? The pictures we saw, how is that place?
No, well, it won't definitely be up to the standard of
that's what we are saying. So that's what I say. If there is a place allocated to him as deputy governor, why deprive him of the use of that place? I mean, it's not because he's Comrade Shaibu, that's why he's entitled to that place. It's because of the office of deputy governor that he holds. That's why he's entitled to that place. So denying him of that place, would we not be right to say that you are indirectly saying he's no longer the deputy governor of the state? These are the concerns I am raising. These concerns go beyond the issues they have. I'm saying to the extent it now affects rights that are given to you by virtue of an office created by law. That is where the concern is. So they can play around with their issues outside office, go about their political issues, but when it now affects how they carry out their official duties, I mean, we should not applaud either the governor or the deputy governor for it. If anybody is incapable of carrying out his duties as is required under the Constitution, there are laid down procedures for removing the person from office. If you're not removing the person for misconduct or any other laid down procedure as contained in our law, it means the person is not wrong in any way. You should allow the person carry out his duties.
But do you think to an extent governors are too powerful to an extent? And I refer to this also in terms of appointments. I think I have it that the governor is also responsible for appointing people in the office of the deputy, just as the president is also the one who appoints people in the office of the vice president. Now, when these two persons are in good terms, definitely the governor will not appoint anybody that the deputy doesn't want.
Yeah.
But when these things happen where they are at loggerheads or they have political differences, it seems as though the governor has power to do quite a lot, as regards the deputy, and maybe even make his life difficult.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to the extent to which the governor can act, even in relation to any other appointee, that's why we have laws that makes provisions for your power as a governor, for example. It tells you this is the extent to which you can act. I do not think, and I wouldn't even imagine that our law will allow the governor to be so powerful to the extent that you tell the deputy governor when to enter his office, when not to enter his office. I mean, if the deputy governor, by virtue of being a deputy governor, is entitled to carry out responsibilities assigned to him, and that office space is part of what he uses to, carry out his duties as a deputy governor, you say you shouldn't use it. What is the picture you're painting? I don't know if you get where I'm coming from. The picture that has been painted is that this guy is no longer deputy governor. That is a concern I'm raising. And that's why I'm saying that for as long as it affects the official duty, the official conduct, there should be a limit to which you take on your grievances, your vengeance on anybody. You can do whatever you want to do. But as it affects the office that this person is holding, there should be a limit to it, so that you do not embarrass the office, because it's not your personal property. And so if the reverse were to be the case, that it is Shaibu who is doing the same thing to Obaseko, I still will not change my position. It shouldn't be brought into official business, because official business is regulated by law. It spells out how to the extent to which you can carry out your responsibilities and how to go about them. So if you now go outside what the law has allowed you to do, to begin to carry out what you think should be the order of the day, it still boils down to a situation where you are bringing anarchy within the system. So everybody should have some checks, and I believe the governor also has some checks too, as it is now. You do not, if you are saying you shouldn't use the premises, his concerns are valid. Give him notice and say, okay, this is you may not even require a notice sometimes. Can simply just put a phone call if all is well. But even if all is not well, there's still a way you can communicate even when all is not well. You're not communicating because it is your decision to communicate. You're communicating because there's an office you hold, and because of the expectation that comes with that office, and even the office of that person holds, you should be able to put some respect on it and act in a manner that doesn't suggest you are being vindictive, or you are allowing your personal interest or your personal concerns to override your sense of responsibility when it comes to carrying out your duties as a governor or a deputy governor, as the case may be.
All right, that's fair enough. Thank you so much for coming and for your thoughts on that matter. I hope they take the advice of Mr. Galileo, where he says they should simply get into a room and resolve their issues for the best of the states. Yeah. Well, thank you so much once again for coming, Mr. Taba Agbo. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, that's all we'll take on the program for today. Don't forget, the Polity reaches you live from Abuja every weekday, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to join us tomorrow and the rest of the week. We'll bring you some reports now, but that's how we end the program. Have a nice day. I'm Amadi Nobari. Bye for now.
Thank you.